Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to yet another workshop within Catalyst Digital Month. Uh, Catalyst Digital Month is a series of workshops that we are organizing all throughout September and the beginning of October, with the aim to teach useful skills and tools to organizations who want to improve their work in the digital sphere. Especially relevant now more than ever with the pandemic and the sort of quick transformation the entire nonprofit sector had to undergo to remote work and to communicating digitally and holding events digitally. We thought this might be of great use to many organizations in the sector. So welcome again. Sorry. I think, oops. Yes, Catalyst Digital Month is funded by the Balkan Trust for Democracy with the support of the United States International Development Agency, USAID, in Serbia. A quick note is that all the software, all the tools that we'll be presenting here, other than our own products, of course, are not sponsored by their developers, and we are only showcasing them at the discretion of the trainers themselves. The topic of today's workshop is free digital protection solutions. Now, there'll be much more about that, but essentially in the digital sphere that we're all lately been forced to live in far more intensely, there are many threats, especially to non-government organizations. This includes targeted attacks, but also general attacks that anybody can be a victim of. And before we move on with the workshop, I'd just like to go through some of the rules we've set down. So as you can see, your audio and video are off. However, this doesn't mean we don't encourage you to interact, quite the opposite. There's a little function you can see down at the bottom that you can use to raise your hand, and we will we will switch you on. And of course, if you want to use your microphone to speak, you'll be, of course, allowed to do that. And also, you can ask any questions in the chat. You can, any comments you may have, anything you need clarified, of course, write to us in the chat and we will respond in a timely manner, I hope. Also, if you lose connection at any point, you're free to reconnect again using the link I sent you, so it's no problem. And as always, as those who've been to some of the previous workshops know, you will receive on the next day the follow-up email containing all the materials, the recording, as well as the presentation. Our trainers today will be Marko Galjak. Marko is a chief data scientist, Catalyst Balkans, but also, especially today, Jelena Vasic. Jelena is a journalist and project manager at KRIK. KRIK is a nonprofit organization as well as media outlet from Serbia, for those who don't know, that deal in investigative journalism, especially investigating corruption. So as you will discover a little later, she will have a lot of very useful experience in today's topic. And also for those of us joining us for the first time at one of these workshops, we're Catalyst Balkans. Catalyst Balkans is a regional foundation operating in the countries of the Western Balkans, and we deal in philanthropy and tech. And what does that mean, essentially? Well, we conduct research on philanthropy in the Western Balkans, all the giving, who donates, what is donated, for what cause, to whom. And we use this data to help both donors and organizations achieve their goals more easily. We are engaged in helping organizations undergo digital transformation, such as using digital tools, CRM software, a crowdfunding platform, and encouraging them to display their transparency, as well as the education and mentorship that we provide, such as this very workshop, where we teach organizations better techniques to achieve their goals through fundraising, improve their marketing, and generally showcase various tools that can help them in their work. Now, I don't know if Marco wanted to add something, possibly, or...
No, Luca, you said everything important.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And for nonprofit organizations such as that you belong to, we essentially offer everybody a chance to go through a certain pipeline, beginning with learning. So where we teach you things about fundraising and various tactics and strategies, best practices we've learned, such as through these educational events, allowing them to find their niche in philanthropy using our philanthropy database app, Giving Balkans, where you can find, as I mentioned, what's been donated to whom and for what cause throughout the region in a very granular fashion. And we help them then to build a community of supporters using our Civic Catalyst CRM platform, which Marco will mention later. And ultimately raise funds from their supporters. Having built a community of their own supporters helps them raise funds to achieve their goals, currently through our crowdfunding platform, Donatia.rs, but we're currently working with partners throughout the region to expand these initiatives and make them available all throughout the Western Balkans. And ultimately, what's important to us is the transparency, because you cannot have a community if you don't have trust, and you can't have trust if your organization is not working transparently. And that's why we've launched our platform, Neprofitnet.rs, which is a unique place which offers nonprofit organizations a place to showcase their own transparency, their inner workings, financial reports, and so on, and to show to their donors that they're working fully transparently. Now, before we move on, I just saw a question from Andrea regarding training held on 15th of September. I didn't get the follow-up material. I'll look into it as soon as we're done with this training, and I will send it to you immediately. So if you're possibly your email wasn't registered or something, but I will definitely look into it, Andrea, and I will send it to you today. And thank you for pointing that out. Now, right, it's time that I let Marco. I will stop sharing now and let Marco move on with his part of the presentation.
Thank you, Luke.
Welcome.
Yes, I'm Marco Gardek, Chief Data Scientist, and I'm not a security expert per se, but over the years dealing with the nonprofit sector and being entrenched into all things tech, I have a unique perspective of somebody who is, on one hand in the tech sphere and on the other hand in the NGO sphere. So this gives me a good position to see where the problems are and to identify what would be the interesting topics that we would need to cover today. Also, I was also following some of the, well, all of the previous lectures and courses that we have, and I identified a specific point of pain that we have discussed, but just a little bit. We mentioned it sometimes, but we never really talked about it. Not Yelena that will speak today. She wasn't talking about this previously when we had previous series of lectures, but also Milan Rašković, who you had the pleasure to see last time that we have had this training. He mentioned something about, well, all of them were talking about specific security issues, but what hasn't been talked that much are your computers that you're using. So, okay, there are good practices, but Milan Rašković, for example, once mentioned Linux as an alternative to Windows, and this as being something that organizations might want to adopt. And let me just share my screen right now. Okay, and what I wanted to talk about today is something called endpoint security. Okay, so we will talk about many services that you might want to use, even our own services, but all of that doesn't make any difference, no matter how secure Signal is, Telegram is, or Viber is, or Civic Catalyst is, if your devices have been compromised. And Milan Rašković at one point mentioned using Linux as a good alternative to Windows for an NGO. So I wanted to spend some time here just to quickly show you the differences, talk to you about the differences between the two systems. I won't go into all the things stack, but you as an NGO, why you might want to prefer Linux over Windows, and why you should maybe consider using Linux over Windows. For example, the main thing here to differentiate is Windows really Windows? What I mean by this, so many organizations, especially in Serbia, where I come from, use pirated software. This is something that we will talk about during this lecture, and this is actually one of the main problems when it comes to this endpoint security. So if you have a Windows installation that is not genuine, that is not licensed, okay, maybe you don't believe in copyright laws, maybe you don't want to give Microsoft like a lot of money, maybe you regard them as evil corporation, but the problem is how you obtain the illegal copy of Windows. Those copies are mostly downloaded from file sharing websites, and this is actually very, very, very dangerous, because many of those cracked versions are compromised in some way. Previously, it was the case that you could not get updates if Windows wasn't genuine, but now that is not the case. You can, even with the non-genuine copy of Windows, you can get updates. This is fine, but there is also a big question of, are there any backdoors? Are there any viruses embedded in the pirated version of Windows that you have downloaded? So if you are a small NGO that cannot afford Windows licenses, I strongly encourage you to either find some money and install like proper Windows licenses or original genuine software, or to consider Linux as an alternative. So many of you might have not heard about Linux, but Linux is an alternative open source system which is completely open source. So there are many varieties of Linux. Linux is like a big category, but some of you might have heard about Ubuntu or Mint Linux or some other Linux operating system. And this operating system basically enables you to have all the great software that you can have on Windows. There might be some restrictions where there is not a specific type of software that you're used to in Linux, but mainly nowadays, when everything is done through the cloud, through the web browser, you don't really feel you wouldn't necessarily feel a big difference if you were to switch to Linux, and it would be much cheaper for you initially because, for example, if you need to buy 5 Windows licenses, that can be expensive, but if Linux is free, that is not a concern. But on the other hand, you would need like a more tech-savvy person who will update and maintain those systems for you and save problems. So on the other hand, Windows is much easier to administer and handle. So, but this is a trade-off. If you have somebody who is tech savvy, or you can obtain a tech savvy volunteer, somebody who would do this for you for free, Linux is a great alternative to Windows. Linux is much more secure than Windows, not so much so of some technological differences in themselves, but Windows is problematic because it's essentially a monoculture, because you have millions and millions of machines running the same version of Windows. And if there is some breakthrough when it comes to finding vulnerabilities in Windows, all of a sudden, all Windows machines in the world are vulnerable and compromised. But when it comes to Linux, like there are thousands and thousands of different Linux distributions, and there is no like this problem of one vulnerability like being used across the entire Linux ecosystem. This is something that is much more likely to happen with Windows or even Mac OS. So this is an important takeaway. This is something for you to look into if you have like a pirated version of Windows, because when you hear that all those sites are taken down by those attacks, when hackers attack the websites using those DDoS attacks, they are actually running huge armies of compromised computers, like maybe yours is, who you don't know, maybe you're not aware that your computer is compromised, but it's actually part of this huge botnet that is commandeered by a hacker from Russia or China, and your computer can be used to attack other websites and computers. But also there is the ever-present threat of ransomware, a virus that essentially encrypts your data on your computer and asks for you to pay an amount in Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies if you want to get your data back. This basically is very unlikely to happen if you use Linux, but Windows systems are known to be compromised, and there is essentially like right now an epidemic of this ransomware software. So this is also a reason why maybe you should consider switching to Linux. While we're on the theme of the pirated software, I wanted to expand on this for a moment. In our nonprofit survey that we did prior to COVID pandemic, when all of that actually started happening, we did this big survey of nonprofits in the Balkans, and we actually asked them like what are the most pirated software that they use, like do you use any pirated software? And we got like a list of people, a list of software products that people, NGOs mostly pirate. So those are mainly design softwares used for design, like Photoshop or Adobe InDesign, Illustrator, but also text processing, tables processing, so Microsoft Office Suite, something like that, and for presentations like PowerPoint, but also internet security and antivirus software, which is a bit strange. You want to have antivirus software, but you're ready to download a pirated copy that might be compromised itself. So this is that's why I want to address some of these types of software and maybe give you an alternative that if you are using or considering to use a pirated software, maybe to give you like an alternative for those softwares. It is the case with Catalyst Balkans. So we had like many design people joining our team, maybe through internships, or we had a designer, and all of them always asked for Adobe Suite. So for Photoshop, for Illustrator, and they ask if they can download the pirated copies of those software on our organization's computers. And our answer is always no, since our policy is not to use pirated software in Catalyst. But I know that this is the case with all the other organizations. So, and these types of software can be prohibitively expensive. Okay, now there are cloud versions where you can pay a monthly subscription that can be affordable. But mostly the case in Serbia, at least, and other Balkan countries, the reality is that the pirated software, which might be compromised and dangerous for you to have on your computers, is running on your machines. And it doesn't matter if you listen to everything Milan Rašković had said, or even what Jelena will say today, if you have like a virus running on your computer. So let's go through some of the alternatives that I want to offer you too. So what I listed here are some alternatives which are open source. Probably most of you know what open source means, but I will reiterate it here. Open source means that the code for this software is publicly accessible. So I can just go to GitHub and see the Inkscape project and inspect its code. So the code is transparent, and there is no way anything nefarious can hide underneath that code, because people would spot it, and it will be easily identified as something that is bad for your computer. And open source software means that it's free, so you cannot use that intellectual property to sue someone or to ask them to pay for intellectual property. This is why I personally prefer open source software, and why I think NGOs should be like standard bearers in their communities and champions of open source software. And one of the most recognizable open source softwares are listed here. For example, there is something called GNU Image Manipulator, short GIMP, which has a lot of functionalities similar to Photoshop. So it has a little bit different interface, and it might be a bit harder to learn if you're coming from Photoshop, but it's a completely free and very powerful alternative. Also, alternative for vector graphics is Inkscape, which is amazing, in some respects much better than Illustrator. Okay, so not all the functionalities are identical, but in some areas Inkscape is even better than Illustrator. So this is something that you might want to consider as alternative. I see Luca's ears pricking up when I
Yes,
came
I
to
just
this.
wanted to say regarding Inkscape that it's even after the billions of dollars invested in the continuous never-ending development of various versions of Illustrator from Adobe, that Inkscape still resolves some simple bugs that persist in Illustrator like for decades now already, which remain unresolved at that price. So, and especially if you're working with the vector graphics for the web, if you're building some kind of a visualization of data or something like that using SVG graphics, such as like you can see on Wikipedia, for example, then definitely Inkscape is the better choice than Illustrator, in fact. That's just my 2 cents. So I hope it's some kind of contribution.
It is.
Sorry, Marco.
Thank you, Luca. Luca is actually one of those design people that joined the Catalyst like a couple of years ago, and I was actually describing him. Adobe InDesign, this is something the design people use, and for preparing publication. I never used it, but it seems to be important. I have no idea why, but I know I've heard about the Scribus as a great alternative to InDesign, but I have no experience with using this software. Microsoft Office, of course, all of us used Office at some point, but LibreOffice is a great alternative. It is compatible. You can open Word documents, Excel documents, and the functionalities are basically the same. There are some differences in interface, but if you configure everything correctly, like you should hardly see any difference if you switch to LibreOffice, which is very good. It's a very solid piece of software. Microsoft Office is also one of the most pirated things running on computers, especially Office computers. And if you are using pirated Microsoft Office, you should consider switching to their paid, to their licensed service, Office 365. It is a subscription model, but they have a special deal for nonprofits. And you can get it as cheaply as like $3 per month per user. So that shouldn't be too expensive for any organization, even small, poor organizations from the Balkans. And actually their online suite is very good. They have OneDrive, which enables you to store the data. But this is something for you to consider. But if this is also too much money, or if you're a small organization that doesn't have any funding and want to be as lean as possible, I suggest you using LibreOffice. All the softwares that I'm listing here are open source, and all the open source software basically runs on Linux as well. So all of this software is essentially native to Linux, and you can actually have everything for free, which is amazing. It's amazing, especially like for the non-profit NGO people, like NGO-minded people. It's amazing to have all of this for free, and community building all of these amazing tools for free. So even on that level, like spiritually, it's more fulfilling to use open source software. When it comes to antivirus software, are there any open source alternatives? Well, actually, this is the most problematic, I think. So if you want like a good antivirus software, I think you need to pay for it. I think there are no like good free alternatives. There is something called Clam antivirus. It's native for Linux, and you can have it on Linux, but there's also a Windows version, which is good. You can run scans, and it can help you like scan your entire file system and look for compromised files and viruses. But I'm not sure if it's too useful, since people on Linux usually don't need that kind of antivirus, and people of Windows already have Windows Defender antivirus built into Windows 10 and now Windows 11, which is actually very good. It is not like in ancient times when you had like Windows 98 or Windows 95 or Windows XP and you needed a specialized antivirus software. Okay, now you can have a specialized anti-software as well. But right now when you install a Windows, it is not defenseless. You have Windows antivirus software built into Windows, which is updated regularly. It's very secure. It has some weaknesses, but it's actually okay. But also there is this issue of you having an original licensed Microsoft copy of Windows. This is important because if you have a compromised version, no matter what Windows Defender update you get, you might have like a backdoor that's built into your system that you're not aware of, that any antivirus company is aware of. So beware. These are some great open source alternatives, but there are some non-open source alternatives that are free but also great, and I wanted to show you some of those. A great Photoshop alternative that I'm in love with is software called Photopea. This is just a website that you go to. You go to photopea.com and you already have a Photoshop interface loaded up in front of you in the browser. You don't need to download it. You don't need to install anything. You use it from your browser, and the interface is almost exactly the same as Photoshop and has all the basic same functionalities. Sure, you cannot do some fancy stuff with some third-party filters or whatever, but like 95% of Photoshop functionalities are there. And what's great is that everything is run locally. So there is an option to log in if you want and save something as a user. But if you load everything up, everything that you import in the software that's in your browser stays in your browser. It doesn't get uploaded to any cloud or any online drive. So your privacy is preserved, your data is preserved, everything is running locally in your browser. And it's actually, it's an amazing piece of software. It's not open source, but there is like one guy that's behind Photopea, and it's really amazing piece of software. I encourage you to try it, to look at it just for fun, even if you don't need it. It's something to yeah, it's a wonder. Luca, you wanted to comment?
No, not on this actually, but there was a question from Andrea, which is, does Adobe Professional have alternatives, meaning Adobe where you can edit, not Adobe Reader? Personally, editing PDFs can be done in Inkscape as far as I know. And LibreOffice also has its own PDF editor, which functions, I think, in a very similar way to Adobe. There are other solutions there. I mean, to all of these software, there's an equivalent for Linux, but certainly within LibreOffice, you can edit PDFs in a very similar fashion, like with the Adobe Professional editor. So I don't know if Marco has any other recommendations.
No, I don't have any recommendations, but what Luca just said is all true. You can edit, but it's not a pleasant experience in my experience. So it's painful. You need to edit it page by page. Not all elements are like editable. If you're editing text, sometimes it gets jumbled up. So I'm not really sure about a good open source alternative. If anyone in the audience has like a good alternative to what Andrea said, please suggest us that. But as far as I'm aware, I don't know like a good alternative. But if you need something like to fix or change, you can do it in these tools. But like for everyday use, I'm not sure. I think that you need to pay. Yeah. Also, I wanted to mention a tool that's also online. It's not open source tool, but it's called VirusTotal. So if you find like a suspicious file that you downloaded and you don't have like a antivirus software installed in your system or scanner, you can just go to VirusTotal and upload the file there, and it will scan it for you and use a bunch of different antivirus scanners to scan that file, and it will give you a report. And if the file is compromised, then you will see it from the report, not only that it's compromised, but you will see what kind of malware it is. So this is also a useful tool to have in your belt, even though it's not open source. So you can join these, join us to AHA Slides. You can either do it by either scanning this QR code or by just going to ahaslides.com/digsec, short for digital security. And you can join AHA Slides, and maybe you can share some of the open source tools that you've been using with us. So ahaslides.com/digsec.
Maybe we can go back just to wait for a couple more
Okay.
people to join. Give them a bit of a chance to.
Okay. It's very easy. Just go to your browser. If you're on your mobile, type ahaslides.com/digsec. It's up here in the header.
Oh, my bad. I think I I missed a dot in the link. Please, sorry. Please. Oops. No, that's not right either. .com/digsec. There we go. Yes, the third one. Sorry, I made a typo while copying. So yes, people are actually managing to join now. Okay.
And now you can type in any open source or free alternative software that you love and use, like Photopia, like LibreOffice. We want to learn about the free alternatives. So you can please type here. Luca, is this quiz working?
Well, I'm getting the wrong slide on my end when I enter with the visitors link. So
this doesn't work, huh?
I'm getting the next slide. Oh, there you go. Okay, it's working now. It's working now. There's been an update recently. We've been using AHA Slides for these, but there's been an update recently, and it's become a little bit unreliable. So.
So somebody's using GIMP. This is something that I want to mention. Something that I haven't listed is like browsers, internet browsers. So there are like great open source internet browser. For example, Mozilla is a great internet browser. Also Chrome, which many people use, it's based on the open source project Chromium, which is also a great piece of software. Affinity apps, yeah, I don't know what affinity apps are. I've never used that. Luca, can you Google quickly Affinity apps?
Yes, I haven't had the experience, but they're essentially graphic design software. It's an alternative to Adobe in certain ways, but although I'm not sure if it's open source because it's sold for money. I mean, but
Yeah, but the question is any open source or free alternative that you love.
oh yeah.
So yeah. So my suggestion is when you're looking for something to download, like in a free alternative or something, never type free in Google. Always type open source. For example, I don't know, open source video editor or open source 3D modeler or open source CRM or open source, because free word is often overused, and it might lead you like to freeware and shareware type of softwares, and maybe those softwares have some kind of advertising built into them. And Canva is a great example. Thank you. OpenOffice, Mozilla Thunderbird, KeePass XC is also great. Yeah, all of those are great pieces of software. I'm not sure about OpenOffice. I know that OpenOffice forked, and now we have OpenOffice and LibreOffice. And last time I looked into this, like maybe 2 years ago, when I was thinking about which one I would like to use, either OpenOffice or LibreOffice, I thought that LibreOffice went much further and developed new functionalities and new options, and OpenOffice seemed like it was stagnating a bit. But it's basically it's the same. They came from the same source. So LibreOffice is like a spin-off of OpenOffice. Yes, and Mozilla Thunderbird is a great piece of software that many people use. So maybe consider that. I know that people in our organization, for example, love to use Outlook, but Outlook has like many issues and problems. And I think that Mozilla Thunderbird is a much better alternative. It's a better alternative to Microsoft Outlook. So thank you for sharing this with us. Before we move on, I wanted to mention also your mobile phones. So mobile phones are extremely important, as web users are now primarily mobile users. So if you have any website, for example, donatia.rs or any other site, and you inspect you see the statistic, you will see that the majority of hits comes from handheld devices, mostly mobile phones, but also tablets. And basically now we have two major operating systems on the market. We have Android and Macintosh. So sorry, iPhone, iOS, and when it comes to security, iOS is probably a better option. Android is built on top of open source code, so all the open source code, all the code for Android is open source, but the reality is that many things that make an Android phone are actually closed source. All of the Google, all of the Google services and everything that we associate with Android is actually closed source, and many of the phone manufacturers that use Android, like Samsung or I don't know, Xiaomi or whoever, have their own closed source software running on top that free open source Android code. And the problem with the Android phones is that not many of the devices get regular updates, and not for long. For example, if you're using iPhone and you have like an old version of iPhone, I don't know, iPhone 6, I guess, or whatever, you're still getting updates for your iPhone. maybe you can expect to have updates like 5 years after the phone has been launched. But it's often sad reality with Android phones that you have only like a couple of years of updates at best. So for example, if you have like a 5-year-old Samsung phone, you stop getting the updates, and there are some security vulnerabilities that get discovered in Android or Samsung software, and you never get those updates, and then your phone is vulnerable. And if you use your phone for two-factor authentication, or you use it for accessing any cloud services, it doesn't matter how secure those cloud services are or how secure Signal is as an app. If your Android device is compromised, this is an issue. On the other hand, we have Microsoft. We have Apple's iOS, which is much secure. This is true, but it is a monoculture. So if there is a vulnerability that gets discovered, or like a backdoor that's built into iOS, then it means that all phones in the world are susceptible to that attack, which is also an issue. But usually Apple is prompt when it comes to fixing those issues that get discovered. And as much as it pains me to say that iOS is like a safer alternative, it actually is. Especially that is the case since many of us probably use like Huawei phones or Xiaomi phones, that are built by Chinese company that are in the pocket of, like, I don't know, Chinese Communist Party. So imagine a future where your NGO sends something about a communist government in China that is offensive. You might be a target by Chinese security services. Maybe your phone is transparent to them, all your data is transparent to them. So it's well, it's the same with the Americans in the iOS. Probably American government has backdoors in the iOS, or that we don't know about. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it's like, who do you trust? The answer is probably you don't trust anyone. You need to be as secure as you can. But these are issues that you need to be aware. So now I want, when we covered this whole of piracy and everything related to software security, I just wanted to come to the software service that we are offering to our clients, this Civic Catalyst that you might have heard something about. I wanted to speak about Civic Catalyst and this service that we use, but through the lens of digital security. So I don't know, maybe many of you have heard about constituent relationship management software, CRM, short. And this is a software that enables you to communicate more effectively to your constituents. So it's essentially a database of your contacts and everything else built on top of this database, everything related to your constituents. So maybe if you want to have different kinds of data stored about them, or if you want to communicate with them, or if you want to track like which events they have attended, or how much money they have given to your organization, or anything related to your constituents, you do it through something called a CRM. What we found, especially in these trying times of the pandemic, is that organizations, when forced to work remotely, are more and more turning to digital tools, like Luca said. And one way of organizations affecting digital transformation in their core is through use of CRM software, which is basically like in the heart of organization. and everything is done through it, like all the processes and organization, everything is tied and done through a CRM. And we have seen that as a CRM as a driver of like not a driver but a gateway to complete digital transformation. And I wanted to talk about that, but through the lens of security. So while we were on the topic of open source and paid services, so here in this slide I listed some of the commercial solutions and some of the free or open source solutions when it comes to CRM software. So when it comes to commercial solutions, Salesforce, I think, is the most famous CRM software. It is used by giant companies. It's actually a unicorn, so I think it's like I don't know. The company is huge. It has market capitalization of how many? I don't know how many billions, but it's a very big and very powerful piece of software, Salesforce, and the company who produces it and implements it to companies and to other companies and organizations. So many of you have maybe heard of Microsoft Dynamics. It's a CRM software. I've never used it, but I know people who have. It has its problems, but it's also very popular. There is Sugar and Zoho and various other CRM softwares. But when it comes to free or open source solutions, there are also some great options. But CiviCRM stands out for its functionalities, for its extensibility. So it's easy to build the modules and use it as a platform to construct your organization CRM. It's very much plastic compared to, it's more plastic than the other CRMs listed here. And I think it's the only true like open source free software. It's completely free, it's completely open source, and has a giant community of open source developers and open source users and practitioners that's around. It's very alive open source project. It's not like dead, it's not being developed. It's actually the speed it is increasing itself. So it's getting larger and larger every month. So this is something that we in Catalyst have selected to push our digital transformation agenda through. So our choice is CiviCRM, but we also, if you are like tech savvy and you're interested in implementing CRM in your organization, we encourage you to go through all of these open source alternatives and free alternatives and see which one suits you best. Another important factor about CiviCRM is that it's actually specifically made for nonprofits. So unlike Salesforce, that is constructed for making sales happen, CiviCRM is made specifically for NGOs and advocacy and organizing events and basically like tracking contribution and basically everything else NGOs and nonprofits do. It's a great piece of software, and I encourage you to look into it. CRM is mostly CiviCRM as a project, but generally CRMs by usage by nonprofits is predominantly in weird countries. Weird being the acronym for westernized, educated, industrial, rich, democratic countries. So it's mostly used in US, UK, Canada, Germany, and Australia and Western Europe. So here in the Balkans and in Eastern Europe, it's not often used, but we are getting more and more interest from the organizations from the Balkans, but also from Romania and Central Europe who are interested in adopting a CRM in their processes. Well, the reason for it is very simple, because CRM enables you to increase productivity, to have like 2 people doing the job of 10 people. And it's no wonder that it's being used like in the weird countries primarily, but we are seeing very big gains in the Eastern Europe and the Balkans. NGOs are actually increasingly interested in adopting CRM into their processes. We in Catalyst offer CiviCRM services. So we actually host CiviCRM and help organizations integrate the CRM into their everyday work. And we call this service CiviCatalyst. So these are some of the users of CiviCatalyst that you might recognize and might not. These are mainly organizations from Serbia, but there are like organizations in Bosnia, but also Romanian community foundations that are using our services. But we are encouraging you to explore CRM and contact us if you like need help. So we are like a nonprofit as well. We are not interested like in making money. We offer our services. We consult even for free. So if you need like help with installing something, or you need advice on how to do it yourself, or if you have like bigger needs and want us to do something for you and help you, we can make an arrangement, and we can help you introduce your organization to introduce CRM in your organization. We call this services CiviCatalyst. So it's basically CiviCRM, but when we consult you and host it for you and update it for you and maintain it for you, we call this service CiviCatalyst. What are the important points when it comes to security with a specific service that we offer, like CiviCatalyst? So we offer hosting, and you can choose which hosting company you prefer. You can choose whether it's hosted in your home country, if you want maybe your sensitive data not to leave the borders of your country and want everything, for example, in Albania, and you don't want it to leave your borders, but perhaps you want it to be hosted in a Western country that is far from the reach of security services in your country. So you don't want to be hosted in Serbia, for example. You want to be hosted in, I don't know, Germany or Finland or the US or, I don't know, Belarus, whatever. So you can choose your own hosting like service. There are specific things that that technically need to happen, like we require a VPS server, and we can iron that out with the hosting of your choice, but it's basically any hosting that you want. So we offer SSL encryption, so everything between the server and your browser is encrypted. So the communication is safe as long as the hosting is safe and as long as your device is safe. The encryption ensures privacy. We can make it so that you can access your CRM just through VPN, so virtual private network. I don't know, maybe you've heard about it. This is something that Milan Rašković talked about. It's actually a tunnel that enables only when you go through this tunnel to use the software, and nobody else from the internet can access it. It's actually on a private small part of internet that's not accessible from any other source, but only through this VPN tunnel. we can also discuss possible implementation of the deflect DDoS mitigation. If you're afraid of DDoS, we can put this kind of protection on your CRM instance. And what is the most important when it comes to running any internet service is regular updates and maintenance. So the entire stack of CiviCRM and CiviCatalyst is built on top of open source. And there are regular updates. So vulnerabilities are found and repaired quickly, and we are there to implement those updates and maintain the service for you. So these are the factors when it comes to CiviCatalyst and security. But I wanted to ask you a question, and for this question you need to be logged in. So if you can please just go, if you haven't already, you can log in to, you can scan this QR code and answer the next question, or go to ahaslides.com/digsec. But many of you who have already logged in are still there. So my question is, have any of you heard about GDPR? So, okay, everyone can Google GDPR, but the point is for me to like get a gauge of how okay, so many people have heard about GDPR, and this is also great because if you have heard about GDPR, then it means that you need to be listening carefully to what I'm going to talk about next. So GDPR, for those who don't know, is General Data Protection Regulation. It's basically data protection law in the legislative within the EU, but many countries in the Balkans that are not part of the EU have similar laws in their countries. These laws are often exact copies of GDPR with specific country flavors, but the essence of GDPR regulation is the same. I, as a data scientist, I have this love-hate relationship with GDPR. On one hand, I love it because it means that big corporations cannot utilize my data and sell it easily, and my privacy as an individual is protected. But on the other hand, there is no so much data to play around as a data scientist. Like, as a data scientist, you want as much data as you can have from all of your constituents, all of your users and the general public, and you want to aggregate it to find correlations, to find interesting things when you're like matching this data set with different data set, and all this is more difficult when it comes to GDPR. And GDPR actually requires something that's called purpose limitation. So that means that if you're collecting data from somebody, it needs to have a specific purpose. So for example, when we were signing up for this webinar, so we asked you to enter your name, last name, email address, organization, and basically you as a person agreed to share that information with us, and you might have or might have not checked like a box that you agreed to something or not. But actually GDPR requires that you limit this data collection to the purpose you want to achieve. For example, if we wanted to organize this webinar, we should not have your birth date or your physical home address or your mobile number. It's not needed. It's not required. So we have to collect only that data that is important for us to hold this webinar. Or for example, if we are having if we want to get a contribution from you and we send you to the donation page, we only need to ask you for the data that is required by law for us to have. For example, know your customer legislation means that we need to have your like billing address or whatever, but we don't need to have any other extra data, and we can't keep that, and we don't have like a good reason to have that data. This means that we cannot utilize that data later. At a later date, we can only use it and store it for long as it's necessary for us to comply with specific laws, or for we to provide you like with a specific purpose. So this is also data minimization. So not like we don't need to know your blood type if you're registering for our webinar. So the purpose of the law is to minimize the kind of data companies get on you, but that this also damages nonprofits. You as a nonprofit want to know your constituents, want to know as much as you can about them, and to have like fingers on their pulse, and to suit your action to their needs. And for this, you need data, but you need to be very careful, and you need to follow GDPR. What is also important is for this data to be accurate. You cannot have like wrong data on somebody. For example, if you're interested for some odd reason in my gender, but in the like Balkans and like big foreign donors they seem to be obsessed by gender, and you need to always say I'm female, I'm male, I'm other. But if you have this kind of data and you need to collect it, then it's necessary for it to be accurate. You cannot use somebody's like old address or old phone number. It needs to be accurate if you really need it. And of course, it needs to be confidential. You need to store that data to keep it private and keep it secure. And for all of this, you need to be held accountable. And there is all GDPR of laws, regulations often prescribe like that you need to have like a data protection officer in your organization that is accountable, but also the organization as a whole is accountable for applying and keeping to the general data protection regulation. All of this is very difficult to achieve if you don't have some kind of a CRM. So CRM, it's either CiviCRM or it's like a custom IT tool that you have built in your organization. But it's very difficult to manage all the data that you have on various persons who interacted with your organization if you don't have a CRM. For example, a breach of this regulation would be an address book. If you have like an address book of your constituents, physical address book, like handwritten, but you also have an Excel file. For example, somebody asks you and asks you to remove them from your database, and they want to be forgotten by your organization. So what you need to do is to physically like cross them in your physical notebook, but also delete them from all the Excel files, from all computers that you have on various like locations with various people, and remove them from your from all of your organization's address books. And this can be very challenging. But if you have a CRM, with one click, you can designate that person as somebody who wants to be forgotten and never never bother them again. This also goes for the people who have died. So for example, if you have constituents that has passed away, and you don't want to be bothering like their relatives, and CRM enables you to have like this control of your data in a way that you just can't have if you're using conventional tools. With great power comes with great responsibility. CRM also enables you to misuse this data, to spam people, to harass people, to collect all kinds of nefarious data on people. But with great power comes great responsibility. It gives you like tools, but what you do yourself is also very important, even more so if you wield such a powerful tool as a CRM. And this is all something that we talk about with our clients, and we help them like design their privacy policy and design processes within their organization of how they do things and how they communicate this to their constituents. This kind of tool gives you power, and if, for example, this regulator comes to your organization and inspects all the data that you have, it is very much important that you can demonstrate that you have the ability to remove somebody from your system. So having this kind of tool is like a boon for you if you are ever inspected, but also when you apply for, I don't know, EU funds or some big foreign donor. If you have a CRM, it demonstrates to your donors that you are capable, that you are competent, and that you are thinking about all of these issues. So this is also an important part of why CRM is, how CRM is connected to digital security. And finally, last but not the least, once you have all this data in your system, tool like a CRM enables you to have like fine access control, to control who in your organization sees what kind of data they have access to. This is important since, for example, you have volunteers who you want maybe to call people using their phones, which are in your CRM, but you don't want them to see sensitive data about your constituents, for example, how much money they have given you or other sensitive data. You can have this kind of control if you have CRM, but this is very difficult to achieve if you have like Excels and you need to have 1,000 different files and share them, and all this mess is difficult to keep track of, basically. So now we have reached the end of my session. I'll have to ask Luca if Jelena has joined us, or can we have like a short Q&A now and short Q&A after, or we will have a Q&A after Jelena finishes?
Yes, Marco, Jelena has joined us, and I will include her in as a panelist just now.
Let me just stop sharing.
Yes, of course. Of course, if there are any questions, feel free to write us in the chat or using the Q&A function. Hello, Jelena. I'm glad you're with us now.
Hi, because you clicked the rejoining button, I did not hear what is the next process. Should I start, or should we have a Q&A session for Marco?
Since we don't have any questions listed here, and I think chat is clear, I think maybe you should proceed, and then people can maybe write to us in the end and ask any questions that they might have.
Okay. So do people need a break, or should I just attack them with a lot of new information?
Yeah.
I think we're fine so far, because I think we can just move on. So we're we're finishing on time, so you can continue now if that's okay with you.
That's fine with me. Okay, so as some of you may know, I am representing investigative portal CRIC today. So as obviously stated, my name is Jelena Vasic. I'm a project manager at Crime and Corruption Reporting Network, short CRIC. We are investigative portal based in Belgrade, and we're focusing on exclusively discovering highly corruption cases and state corruption and organized crime in Serbia. Maybe it is clear from that description that we are very, very focused on our security of our sources, of our journalists, of communication itself. If it's not clear, it can be described very briefly. So, because you are, as I understood, you're coming from the entire region, you maybe do not know the context in which we as an investigative portal work on. So I will just briefly describe that we're a 6 years old organization. We can say that we're young, but experienced, because so far we have discovered many corruption cases regarding current government. And precisely because of that, we have been, and I can say that publicly, we have been a target of monitoring, of surveilling, of spying, call it whatever you like, but we have had actual evidence and several events in our past that have proven with 100% of certainty that this and previous government ruled by these parties have actually misused state institutions to surveil investigative journalists. That is why we have developed a set of rules and tools how to protect ourselves, communication between, reporters, communication with the sources, and with the public itself. And I will be happy to share most of those tools with you today. So I will give you all the tips and tricks on how to protect yourself in the online world and how to protect your data. As I understood from Luca's decision, you will be able to ask questions after I finish. Like, I will have maybe an hour-long presentation of all of this, but maybe if someone feels free to interrupt and ask a question regarding specific tool I'm referring to, then they can interrupt me and I will just briefly explain. I guess, Luca, you will be following the questions in the chat, so I don't have to focus on that.
That's right. You can focus on your presenting, and I'll let you know if anything comes up that's relevant.
Okay. So as I mentioned, I do not want to seem overly dramatic, but if you're an NGO organization, if you're a independent journalistic organization working in the region, you have for sure felt the need to protect your data, because we work in a hostile environment, unfortunately, and we should start to ease you in on the way how you can actually on the daily basis protect yourself with high efficiency. So I will share my screen now. I guess I can do that. Yeah, this one. So do you see it now? Yes. Okay. I see nodding from Marco, so I guess everyone sees it. So First tool, or actually an app I would like to recommend today is Signal. I'm hoping that some of you are already using this, but if you're not, please, I beg you, install it today. So this is Signal. That's free to use mobile app that will ensure you to communicate via messages and also via calls in an encrypted and saved way. So this is an app that actually, as you can see on your screen, it's shown here how it looks. It's an app that basically, functionality-wise, functions as Viber, as WhatsApp. You know, it's a mobile app, but it's actually much more secure. It doesn't store your data, it doesn't steal your data, and it doesn't misuse it. So I will actually just shortly explain that Signal functions in a way that it encrypts your data, and encrypting means locking, or in the most obvious translation. So when you send a message to someone who is also using Signal, you have ensured that that message is only seen by that person, because you as a sender have encrypted your message, then the receiver has received it in an encrypted way, so only two of you actually see the content of the message, and in between Signal itself is encrypted. No one monitoring your communication will see actually what is sent, what kind of messages are being sent between these two users. And as we scroll down, you will see that some very interesting people have recommended Signal themselves. Mr. Snowden says he used Signal every day. CEO of Twitter also says that he trusts Signal because they have an open source. They are actually funded by donations, and that they represent you know, a safety environment. So, and you have many other different recommendations. So it says that basically you should use it because it's a secure messenger, and it's super easy to install it. You just go to your Google Play or whatever app you're using, and install it on your phone. What it basically, the most important options it gives you is that on Signal, you can actually set messages to disappear, to have a disappearing mode. So when you send a message to me via Signal, you can set up your option that that message is available for example, 5 minutes or 24 hours. And it means that, you know, our communication will not be misused if your or mine phone are being stolen or, you know, taken away in some other situation. Also, this app, when you set it in your options, gives you an opportunity to be sure that no one can screenshot your conversation. So no one can, you know, for example, a colleague that you trust, but is actually, you know, not so trustworthy in the long run. He cannot screenshot it and resend it if you set it up in your Signal options. And the other very useful thing, Signal has its own PIN. So if you want, when you're using Signal, you can set to kind of set a PIN before entering the app itself. So if your phone is actually taken, you can be safe, because all the messages that are stored in Signal will be locked. And all other options are available. You can have group chats among your colleagues. You can have calls that are also encrypted. But as we always say on these trainings, you should be mindful of the offline world, because if you're using Signal for text messages, that's okay. You just send a text message, you can make it disappear, you can lock your Signal, you can, it's safe to send message through Signal. But if you're calling someone, that's also encrypted. The call is encrypted, but you're physically in a room. So you should always be aware of that, in a way that if you're calling a source, if you're calling a business partner, and you do not want that conversation to be public one day, you should not do it from a coffee shop. You should not do it from your office if you do not trust your office. We have had a period in time that we did not trust our office because it was wiretapped, it was bugged, and we had to move to another office. So that's another story. But as I must say, if you want to use Signal, be sure to kind of freely use it for text messages. Be safe to use it with calls. And the third option, you can have Signal on your laptop. So you can download it on your laptops, computers, for a faster communication, for faster files exchange, because Signal is very, very safe for files, images, any kind of data exchange. You can use it also for that. But I do not recommend downloading Signal on your laptop if your laptop is not encrypted, if it's not locked by a super secure password itself. We will get there. We will talk about laptop encryption in a few minutes. This is just easing you in. So basically, as I say, I highly recommend using Signal. It's super easy to install it. It's basically like installing Viber or WhatsApp. Just install it on your phone, enter your phone number, and you will immediately get, as you can see here, illustrated, the list of people that already have Signal. So you can actually directly communicate very securely with them. Also, if your organization is not using Signal, I recommend that you kind of make it a rule for your colleagues to talk on a very sensitive things via Signal. But I will also like to share a tip there as well. You should not, if you're entering this safety field, you should never lock all your communication. You should never fully go to Signal and Signal only, or encrypted emails only, because if someone is monitoring you, that would be highly alerting to them. That would be something that says, okay, they're locking everything from their data. We cannot enter any information they're exchanging between themselves. So you should not do it for all the data. And I will give you an example. If you install Signal on your phone, you should always keep the Viber and SMS and WhatsApp option as well for business conversations, messages, and you divide the information you share on WhatsApp. So, for example, on the Viber app, you should share something you would actually share publicly, like, look at this news article. What do you think? What we should order for lunch? What do you think about this and this event? Something light. You should keep your communication to go with the flow, as they say. So the channel is open, but all the sensitive information, for example, we will have a meeting with that source at that restaurant at that time, that should be sent only through Signal to your colleague. And of course, when you're entering in a new kind of a relationship with a source, you should explain to them as well, please install this app. We trust it as an NGO, as a media, and we should continue our communication on that app. So secure, very secretive data should be sent via Signal if we're talking about phone communication. And I also recommend you can talk on Signal, but as I said, light topics should stay for normal phone conversation, because you don't want to lock everything down. Or you can even do the other level. You can send fake information via Viber and the real one via Signal. So you can say, we should meet tomorrow at 2 on Viber, and actually say, okay, the real time is today at 5. You know, so I hope you get me. I hope that Luca and Marco can confirm that I'm being clear so far, because this is just the first step. Okay, good.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. So that would be actually how you should communicate from now on regarding your phones. And the next tool I would like to share, or actually it's not a tool, it's a website. It's Jitsi. So that is actually the safest website for online meetings. And we, as investigative journalists, when we have online meetings, and we had a lot of them since 2020, we only use Jitsi. So this is a website that is free to use and super easy to use. I will show you, just like enter the address that you see in here, and then just start a meeting. And then you will see, actually, you need to just enter your name. I can just say Jay and join the meeting, and that's it. The meeting has already started. All I have to do to have, you know, my colleagues join me is just like copy this link in this bar at the beginning, just copy it and send it to via Signal or encrypted email. And the person who needs to join me, all he or she needs to do is to click on the link. You don't have to install Jitsi, you don't have to make it any kind of effort. You just go on the website, click start meeting, and you will already be on the meeting, which is safe, not monitored by anyone, and free to use. And the length of the meeting is not limited. The number of people who can join you is also not limited. And why do we recommend it? I mean, the thing is, it's completely okay to use Zoom, Skype, or any other tool for public meetings, for lectures, for meetings with colleagues from other organizations, if it's like something you would actually talk about publicly. But if you have an internal meeting inside of your organization, some planning, or of course, always if you're communicating with the source, if you're communicating regarding some specific plan, you should use a Jitsi as a very safe and free to use website. And what I also can say again is that be mindful, of course, about the offline world while you are in the online meeting, because why did I say that? If you're using Jitsi, to have a online meeting in a coffee shop, you have done, I mean, not much, because someone can be sitting behind you, someone, you know, can be eardropping, and you should, you know, at least use your earbuds or whatever you call them, headphones, to protect the information that the source is giving you if you're in unsafe environment. If you trust your office, if you trust your apartment, of course, have your online meetings there as well. We have had many unfortunate events which made us not trust our office and apartments. We have had 3 break-in and enterings to apartments of Creek female team members in 3 years. So someone has broken into, turned everything upside down and left. No theft, no nothing, just like an intimidation, a message, I can enter your flat, or I can, you know, bug your flat, whatever it is. It's not solved. Any of those cases is not solved. So that's why I'm always saying you should know, do you trust your offline environment when you're using online world to communicate from there? And that would be like the 2 most easiest tools you should use at the beginning. Now, Signal and Jitsi. That's basics. And then we should go, you know, beyond that. So when you secured your phone, when you secured your online meetings, you should of course secure your emails. And the way to start there is, number 1, request and task to have a double-step verification. So I don't know if you guys actually use a double-step verification, but it is necessary if you're handling with sensitive data. And the most important thing, it is super easy to install and use. So what does it mean? I have opened here, I hope you see it, a Google two-step verification description and install page. So it basically means that when you're using your email, as they say in their how it works description, it just adds second step of protecting your email. So first step is your password. Second step is a specific code you will be entering after the password. And then, as they see, you enter your password, and then this, depending on the way of second step communication you will be using, it will be a code on your mobile app, or it will be a security key. We recommend a code on a mobile app because a security key can be easily lost. You should be, you know, something that you should use something that is more you know, easier to keep safe. And if you scroll down, you will see that they have step-by-step explanation of how to get your two-step verification. And when you go to get started, you will get all those steps. You would need to, of course, follow them. And this can be should be installed on your Google or other verified mail providers very easily. And I will show you what I mean by a double step. So as you can see here, this is Google Authenticator, and you see here all the different codes. And I'm able to show them to you this publicly, because these codes change on every 60 seconds. So you can see them now, they will be different in 60 seconds. And as you can see here, I have added two-step verification on all of my accounts. So business email, private email, Facebook, Twitter, whatever else I use. And the thing is, so I must insist on this. You just enter your password, then the Google will ask you, enter us a code you have on your phone. And then you enter the enter the code in 60 seconds. And it makes your life so much safer, because what it means, for someone to enter your email communication now, all they have to do is to have your password, to steal it, to get it from you in some funny way, because that also can be done. All they need is your password and they're in. But if you have a double-step verification, they need your password and they need to steal your phone. So it means that a super experts are onto you, and they would need all of that to enter your email correspondence. And that's why I'm kind of persisting on that. So please do this today. Install Signal and your two-step verification, and you're so much better than yesterday. And then
Yelena, sorry, I just wanted to jump in because I thought maybe I should ask this later, but I just want to make it clear that you are actually talking about installing the app on your phone and having Google Authenticator, because if I think that majority of people use two-step verification through SMS, which is basically transparent to the government.
Yes, yes, a good point. Yes, so but it's actually explained in the further how-to introduction by Google. So but I will briefly explain. So yes, as Marco said, you should always choose to have, when installing the second step verification on your email account, then also download Google Authenticator. That's the name of the app, but Google will say it in their instruction sheet I shared with you. Google Authenticator, as I showed you, and then connect it. It's easy to connect it with your Gmail account, and then they will be synchronized. So each time you enter the password, you can just look at your password, then look at your phone, and also add the 60 seconds old code. And of course, do not use the SMS version, like to get SMS codes on your phone, because we all know that, at least in Serbia, SMS communication is completely unsafe because it's completely transparent to security agencies of the government. So yes, after that, install Google Authenticator. Thank you, Marco. I mean, that was a useful add-on. And then I will continue to push you on even further locking your data. So this tool that we just mentioned, the double-step verification, has just protected the entrance to your email correspondence from your side. But you're sending your emails to other people. They can or cannot be using the protection. They can be or cannot be safe with their own emails and data. So you should only rely on yourself when making those decisions on what kind of emails to send, or to be more precise, in which way to send them. That is why we recommend that when you have very secretive information you would like to share via email, you should always encrypt your email. And there are different ways to do that, but we recommend Mailvelope, as you can see here. So basically, Mailvelope is an add-on, as they say here, add-on that can be used on Chrome, Edge, or Firefox to encrypt your emails. Mailvelope is actually something that seems complicated. You will be maybe confused if you see it for the first time today, but I assure you it is, when you get to use it, easy to use. And when you scroll down to their page, they explain you why you should actually be persistent and use the encryption. And you will see that very significant media organizations, international ones, respected ones, have all recommended Mailvelope in the various different articles. We in Creek also use them. So as you can see here, you have a download Mailvelope button, and then when you start doing that, you will have, you will be guided with the program on step how to install this add-on on your browser. But I will briefly explain the point of how this system works and how this encryption actually works. So when you download this, you will actually be entering a system that is based on 2 keys. So what it means, 2 keys, or to be more precise, 2 passwords. Because as I explained at the beginning, encryption means that your information that you're sending via message or via email is encrypted on your end, you as a sender, and it gets in an encrypted way to receiver, to your colleague, partner, whoever. So when you type your message and send it, the message goes as completely distorted in a version of codes, numbers, gibberish message, meaning nothing message, through the cloud, through internet itself, and then gets to a receiver in that encrypted form, and then he enters his password and opens it. What it actually looks like when you actually download Mailvelope. They will ask you to make 2 passwords, or they call it 2 keys. One is private key and the other is public key. Private key is the password that you create or think on your own. It should be a very, very good password, 32 characters long, with all the password making rules, which we will discuss later. So it should have small and big letters, numbers, symbols, everything, but it should be something that is easy to remember. And you need to think and make your own private password, which you, of course, do not share with anyone. After you have made that in the Mailvelope program, then the program will generate your public key. A public key is basically a document. It looks like a Word document with like a very long list of letters and numbers and symbols, just like all of them in one place. And that's your public key. And you should share your public key with everyone. Your public key can be on your Twitter, account, on your, you know, in the description of your email, on your visit card, wherever. So because the public key is actually something that other people need to send you an encrypted email. And I will also briefly elaborate on that. So you need, when you install those two keys, then you make in the mail envelope, which we saw, a key database. So you need to enter all the public keys of the people you want to communicate with in your key management, key database in the mail envelope program itself. Of course, that is why when you download mail envelope, you need to have your colleagues install it as well. Or I mean, other kinds of encrypted emails, they just need a public key. Then you exchange your public keys. You can exchange them via regular email. You can exchange them via, you know, any kind of message. Public key is a public key, names itself. And then when you exchange your public keys and download and upload them in the key management inside of the mail envelope, you will have the opportunity to exchange encrypted emails. And I will now briefly try to show you that. So do not worry, I'm not revealing any data. This is just the link for this meeting. So if I go here to create a new message, new email, I hope you see it now. So this is a regular email, but this is, as you can see, a mail envelope sign. And when I go here, it says write secure email. So when you download mail envelope, it will be an add-on, of course. So it will be instantly available on your email. And then when you click on write secure email, then a big box will open and you will have an option to write message inside of that box and to give the recipient address. That would be actually the person who is already in your key database I mentioned, because the database it's here in the mail envelope, and then you just click encrypt and the person will get the encrypted message. But as I mentioned, that person will receive an email with just like a lot of symbols and letters, and then when he swipes to his screen, an option will appear like decrypt the message and open an email. Then he needs to enter his private key or private password, and then you can exchange and see the email and exchange for the communication. I mean, I know I'm being very detailed, but if you decide to enter in this field and actually encrypt your email communication, it would be easier for you when you enter the mail envelope program to now understand what will be happening, you know. And the very important thing, as you can see, if we get encrypted message, only the message itself will be encrypted. The subject remains public. You should have that in mind, because you should not have your subjects titled like super secure message, do not open this if you're not alone, this is very sensitive, you know. Don't do that, because subjects are basically what stays in the public domain, as we say it, because if the other person, you know, is not super secure, then, you know, communication can leak. So if it leaks, the subject will be public, and the subject should be let me know what you think about this event, or invitation to a meeting, or regarding our previous conversation, questions regarding this and this project. So something general. Subjects should be general, but encrypted message, of course, are meant only for secretive communication. As I mentioned, do not be super closed when having an email communication. Of course, continue to have, you know, a regular email communication in a way you did before, but just like a super important things, like if you need to exchange passwords with someone via passwords regarding a project, passwords regarding something you work on, super secret information, then you should send them via encrypted email. Of course, files should be sent via encrypted email if you're not using Signal or other options. But I can see that Luca wants to say something.
No, I just wanted to read out the question. We had a question from Angela. The question is, what happens if the recipient doesn't have Mailvelope? Is that
Yeah, as I said, so the other party, of course, needs to have encrypted email. It doesn't have to be Mailvelope, but they need to have encryption on their email. There are different versions of email encryption. The program we recommend is Mailvelope, but what that person needs is actually encryption on their email. And you will know that they have one if they have sent you their public key. So, I mean, if you want to send an encrypted message to someone, you can ask them via email, hey, I would like to have part of our communication sent via encrypted email correspondence. Can you send me your public key? This is my public key. Or you can basically, you know, call them on Signal and say, hey, can you please send me, you know. So if you have their public key and they have yours public key, then of course you can have encrypted email communication.
Otherwise, they will only see gibberish.
Yes. Otherwise, they will receive gibberish, as I tell you, like a lot of letters and numbers, and they will receive gibberish, and they will have no option to unlock it because they do not have. You did not have an actually option to have their public key in your database.
so essentially it doesn't matter which software you use, it's only important that you exchange public keys and that you have essentially on both ends encryption working.
Yes.
Okay, I hope that answers. And I wanted to ask, actually, are there any like limitations regarding sharing files through this through encrypted email, or does it work the same as regular?
You can for sure have files be encrypted and be added via encrypted email. So we will, in the next minutes, talk about how to encrypt files as well. And also you can send like regular files via encrypted email. And it is recommended to have, you know, some databases with personal data, as Marco was explaining, for sure sending them via encrypted emails, because otherwise you have just given them away to many different users in the cloud. So if that answers the question, I can continue. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, that was the way how we just have protected our email correspondence. But you know, that's not enough. Basically, it's never enough. But what you also can do, as I said, you can encrypt your files and your computer. Why is it not enough to just have your email and phone used in a secure way? Because basically at the end you have to deal with physical devices, and those are your laptops, those are USB sticks, those are, you know, hard drives. So if you just encrypt your email and then have your laptop left in your office or left, you know, at the friend's house or whatever, have your laptop stolen, it doesn't matter that you have encrypted your email, have double verification, done all that stuff. If your laptop is easily accessible to anyone who can grab it and take it, because when they open your laptop, they will be able to, you know, see a lot of your email correspondence if, like most of people, you do not log out from your email every day. And then that is why we recommend always to have your laptops encrypted. But the thing is, and I can be completely transparent about that, encryption is highly dangerous in the hands of a beginner. So please, please never encrypt your laptop for the first time by your own. Because when you encrypt, or to translate, lock, when you lock your laptop with a password, you will never be able to restore your information if you forget that password, or if you mess up the part of the encryption process by yourself. So I will not recommend that you jump off with encryption today, because that is dangerous if you do not know what you're doing. But I will tell you this. So I hope that Catalyst and other NGOs, your donors, partners like CRIC, I hope that you feel free to communicate to them and ask for a digital security expert to come and encrypt your laptops when needed, because we did that. We, as a team of journalists, have actually asked our partners from international media organizations to come and help us. Their media and their digital experts have actually showed us how to encrypt computers. So it should be done for the first time with encryption of your laptop, for sure, with an expert next to you. And if you're very brave, then at least have your all of your data kind of backed up on a hard drive, and then start your encryption process. And that is why I have opened VeraCrypt. So that is a free-to-use program for encryption, which we recommend. As they say on their homepage, they can encrypt entire partition or a storage device, such as USB flash drive, hard drives. They can actually encrypt partition and drives on Windows, and they have their step-by-step process. And it is impossible for me today to explain you how to actually download and use VeraCrypt, because we only have this much time, and I will need a double this just to focus on VeraCrypt. But what I have done actually is I have found how to encrypt your system with VeraCrypt by How to Geek. So they have here like step-by-step process where they say how to install it, what a button to click, you know, everything, what to do regarding every part of the process, so you can get yourself introduced with the process if you're interested in encryption. And the thing is, actually, it can be not this scary if you decide to only encrypt one folder on your laptop. That is also an option, because as you can see from the previous slide, should I say, the thing is, VeraCrypt gives you an option to encrypt only one folder, or only one USB stick, or only one hard drive. So, you know, you can actually start with baby steps, because when you're entering this world of encryption, you can actually have the most sensitive data you own encrypted. For example, database of your contact list, database containing private information of your partners, business partners, colleagues, etc. You know, anything you think of that should be misused, or that can be a target of someone monitoring you and wants to steal that specific information from you, like super secretive new project of your media organization, anything you can think of in that context should be encrypted on a specific partition on your laptop or a specific folder. And the good thing is, when you encrypt with VeraCrypt, you can actually make the folder look like, you know, an image, or make it look like some, for example, Word file. So it's not a folder on your screen. It's like an image that when you click, it doesn't open. It's some like some kind of badly downloaded image. So it's good if someone is also using your laptop. For example, if two colleagues are using the same laptops in two shifts, if you bring your business computer to home and then other people have access to it, if you bring it to your you know, friend's house, party, whatever, if you have your laptop with yourself, it's good to have those partitions you know, encrypted, but also masked in a different image. And also, of course, when you're naming that folder or that image, that encrypted part of your data, also be creative. Don't name it like super secret data or encrypted data or do not open this, whatever. It should be like something that means to you, like, oh, this is like vacation plans, or shopping list, or a photo from last year, whatever, you know, something general that means to you, but it doesn't mean nothing to anyone else. And so, as I said, we would be happy to help you with encryption if needed, and we do recommend it. And if there are questions regarding that, you can ask me. If not, I can and will and will continue. So what is the vibe? Luca, you can tell me if I...
Yeah, we don't seem to have any questions so far regarding encryption, except for the ones that were answered. So I think we can move on, but of course, anybody feel free to comment at any time.
Okay, so I asked because if you have followed all the steps recommended, you have basically come, you know, from 0 to 100. You have protected your phone, protected your phone. I forgot to say that your phone should always have a password, always have a double verification itself. You know, a Signal is very good because it has its own PIN, but the other information on your phone are not locked if you don't have a password. So if we follow all the steps mentioned today, you have learned how to talk and send messages via your mobile phone, how to have secure online meetings, how to have secured email correspondence and protected emails, and even how to, encrypt your or option of encryption of your computer and folders. So if you did all this, you're very, very good. But do not be scared. You do not need to go from 0 to 100 in one day. You just need to start using these tools one by one. Start with Signal, start with Jitsi, put a double-step verification on your email, and then ease in the encryption world, etc. But my point was, when you've done all this, you're not actually done, because you have been encrypting and locking and protecting your part of your end of the communication in online world. What you should be mindful about is actually the other things as well. And that is, for example, people who are monitoring your searches, your browsing history, your Google searches in any way. So it's not enough to protect email if you're publicly researching a dangerous or secretive task. As a researcher, as an investigative journalist, you should be mindful actually about how you are visiting some pages. Is it instantly known to everyone that it is you, it is your IP address actually visiting that company's website, it is your IP address actually researching about this and this. So of course there is a way to protect yourself from that as well, or to be more precise, to hide your identity when Googling, when being online and researching. And for that you need VPNs. I believe that you for sure have mentioned or used VPNs so far. So that means like virtual private network. And VPN comes in free and paid versions of programs you install on your devices, on laptops, on mobile phones as well. And we at CRIC recommend actually F-Secure, as you can see in the corner. F-Secure is the VPN provider, but also at the same time, it is actually protecting you. It is a virus protection program. So it gets, as they say, security on all levels, because at the same time, if you install F-Secure on your computer, you will have virus protection, but also you will have an option to choose how the rest of the world will see who is joining the online communication, who is researching, from which IP address you're entering the communication, or actually your location itself. So when you have F-Secure, they are actually they have good offers, because when you buy one license, you can protect 7 devices. So if you have a small organization like CRIC has, you can have 2 licenses and your entire team is protected. The thing is, of course, there are other options regarding VPN I could recommend, but I mean, I'm sure that you can ask within your NGOs to have the best possible version of that. I will show you briefly here. So I have my F-Secure Freedom opened. So this basically means when I have downloaded F-Secure, it has given me two programs. One is called so F-Secure kind of home, which protects you from viruses, and other is Freedom, which protects your freedom online. Basically, when it says that protection is on, you can then choose a location from which you're joining this meeting, from which you're joining Google, researching about something, visiting some website. We can choose to, I will choose to Google from will see that someone from France is visiting.
Sorry, Yelena, I don't know if you can hear us, but you got frozen there for a few seconds.
You're still frozen. Seems like an internet connection issue.
Yes. My apologies, everyone. We'll just give it a few minutes to see if Yelena's connection comes back. Hi, Yelena.
Do you see me now?
Yes, you got frozen there for about a minute. Well, not a minute, about 30 seconds, I think.
Sorry about that. I have done nothing. Maybe it's my internet. But do tell me, have you seen the Freedom F-Secure window I opened, when you can choose the location from which you're joining the
I believe so, yes.
Okay, cool. So we can continue. So when you have that, you basically have the option to choose like what will your IP address look like to someone when you're actually communicating with their website and them as well, because you know you need to hide your location as well. And because F-Secure is something that needs to be paid for, I have also prepared, of course, the free version of this. So yeah, it's Tor. Basically, Tor is the oldest version of this kind of VPNs, free to use VPNs, but Tor is also at the same time a browser like Google Chrome or Mozilla. So Tor is 2-in-1 in different way. They defend you, as they say, against tracking and surveillance, because when you install Tor on your computer, you will have a browser, like additional browser, like Google Chrome or like Mozilla, but safe one. They do not track your search history. They do not track actually you as an IP address. What they do at every time you're researching through Tor, they constantly in the background are changing your IP address. So that browser is not only giving you an option to completely securely search through Google, through internet. They also at the same time they're changing your IP address constantly, and that is why, because of those two processes happening at the same time, the Tor is a slower browser. So they're slower than Google Chrome or Mozilla or whatever you use, but they're super secure. And when you need to research something online, for free and super secure. I always recommend Tor. As you can see, they're donation-based, they're open source, they're highly recommended by international journalistic community. And as I say, do not use Tor in everyday work to research like where to buy a new dress, but research them when use them, sorry, when researching something very specific you would not like to be, you know, opened regarding that before your time. And those would be like the most important tools on how to protect yourself in the online world, how to protect your online communication with other people. But as I mentioned, all of these or most of these tools, yeah, I must correct myself, or most of these tools require you to have a very good password. And that is something we should talk about actually in these next several minutes. So what I would like to point out, all of your passwords should be different. And I do not mean that if you're being lazy and have one password for all accounts, it's bad. I mean, it's very bad, because when someone gets your password from any account, Facebook or whatever, they then will have, you know, that password to unlock all of your accounts. So you should for sure have a different password for all accounts, and passwords should be made by this rule. They should be easy to remember, but hard to guess and how to make them. So of course, do not use any of your personal data, names, etc. Dates of birth, names of your partners, friends, cats, whatever. Do not use them. You know that so far for sure. But what you can use can be something very specific to you and not to mean anything for the, you know, rest of the world. That could be a quote from your favorite book. That could be a part of your favorite song. That could be like a part of a dialogue you remembered from your favorite movie, because it needs to be long. It needs to be almost a sentence, to be 32 characters or more. And then when you have that in mind, then you should observe that sentence as something you can modify. For example, as you know, letter B can be number 3, a letter I can be 1, or E, for example, depending on how you perceive it. But you can use a dot or a question mark in between every of those words. You can have every word starting with big letter, or every first and last letter of each word can be big or small. And you know, combinations are the ones that save and make your password safe enough. And it is not true, like it's been talked about in the previous years, that the password should not contain words. It can contain words, but they should not be private information about you, and they should not be words in total. They should be modified with, you know, big and small letters, and it should be a system to you. Like it would be completely easy to you to remember a favorite quote from your movie. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. that's not my password. That's a quote from a very good movie. But if you remember just that sentence, you can now have your own system of making it a password. Like I said, every first word should come with big letter. That should be a number 3 between each of those words. There should be an exclamation mark at the beginning and at the end. Those are the things you remember. You make your own system and you make a password that is long and very hard to break, but easy to remember. Because I said that you should have different passwords for all of your accounts, that should not be actually easy to do, because as some of you may know, nowadays there are actually there are programs that allow you to have your passwords very, very securely stored in KeePass management. So this is the one we recommend. This is the one I also use. KeePass basically is a program you download on your laptop, and it's like a small database of all of your passwords. And the only database you need to remember for that is the one that encrypts the entire password database. So it looks basically like this. I hope you see it on my screen. This is my KeePass database, and then I enter the entire.
We don't see it. We only see your browser window.
Then
You may want to switch possibly, sorry, Elena, to sharing the entire surface of your screen, because possibly you're just sharing from the browser window now.
You're right. I will do
have that option.
Do you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is my key or password database. And then I enter, and I will not do it now, but then I enter my password, and the entire list of my passwords of other for other accounts opens up. And the thing is, you can have this KeePass password management create your other passwords in a way I just described. They can be a list of words or signs created by a KeePass, and then you just copy them to websites you use, to accounts you use. And KeePass is very secure, but of course your passwords should always be backed up in a safe place. If you're printing them, please find a way to print them that your passwords are not like Facebook password 2 dots. You should just make a small text of it, and hide them in that text. If you're storing them on a piece of paper locked somewhere, or if you're storing them on a piece of paper encrypted somewhere else than your computer. But why am I mentioning KeePass? Because it makes your life easier, because you can have 10 different passwords safely stored, and of course make your life safer, because all my accounts now have different passwords, and I remember only one password on how to use and enter KeePass. KeePass is also free to use, and I do recommend it. But as I said, when you make a KeePass, when you download it and make your password database, then you should for sure store your passwords somewhere safe as well on the other place, because everything crashes, computer crash, everything is unsafe to a certain degree. So if you choose to have multiple passwords stored in KeePass, do that. But if you're only using like 3 accounts, if you have a email, if you have like a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I don't know, then you actually can remember 3 or 2 passwords that are made in a way I described, like something that means to you, a sentence that means to you, but it doesn't mean nothing to the rest of the world in that way. And I would like to also end this part of the session with recommending something for protecting all of this we mentioned today in offline world. So as I said, you could be sitting in a coffee shop, you could be sitting in the office with a colleague that does not work on that same project, or with a new colleague you do not trust, or with, you know, a group of friends you just met. You could be using your laptop anywhere in public space. So you should have I hope you see them now, these screen protectors, privacy filters. What they actually do, those are just like very thin foils that you put on your laptops, and you see through them completely clearly from this angle from which you're always using a computer like directly. But if anyone starts to look at your computer from the side, from your back, from, you know, this part, they will see a black screen, because that's like a screen that deflects light in a very specific way, so you can see your data from close and directly, very clearly, completely clearly. But everyone from the far, or from the different angle, they will see a black screen. So that's super cool, super safe for you to use, you know, your laptop in a public spaces. And what you also see here, those are camera protectors. So when you're not using your cameras like this, you just close and open them with just one click, because you should always be closing your camera when you're not on a public meeting. We know why. I should not explain why, because cameras can be manipulated, and you do not want to have anyone filming you while you're, you know, walking through your apartment or talking with someone, whatever. You don't want them to be open when you did not choose to have them open. So these 2 things, this screen protector and this camera protector, both of them are available to be purchased online. They're cheaper or more expensive. Different versions are available, but use any of the version. And of course, all of this come in different sizes for different kind of laptops. So I hope I have been clear and not too scary. And I really, really hope that you will start using some of these tools and websites in the near future. As I say, just start with Signal and just, you know, protect your email with double verification. That would be so cool for the start. And I guess that because this is recorded, you will get the link to this session, but also I guess that Luca will send you links to all of this website as well. And now I'm here for any question.
Hey, Yelena, hi. I have a couple of questions. Have you ever, like, as a organization, have you ever considered using the Linux operating system, or why are you sticking to Windows? Can you give us your thoughts on this?
Yeah, we have been using Linux at the beginning of our work in 2015. It is safe, but it enables a lot of very cool options we can use in our daily work, as producing, different kind of content as journalists, and different tools we recommended you today. So we have found a way to make using Google safe, using Windows safe. So, and actually it's been a decision, because it gives you more options. The rest of the world is using Windows. You have a very specific programs on Linux. They are not compatible with all the programs. You need to, we are participating on international projects. You need to have, like, for example, a Windows based program to have some kind of editing process done. So because of that, we have found a way to actually, even though we know that Linux is safe and we have been using it shortly, we decided to make Windows and Google safe and be safe and productive and up to date.
Okay, thank you. And one more question about, I'm interested about your mobile devices actually. Do you have some kind of policy organization-wise? Like, do you limit your selection of the devices that you can use? Do you have like a moratorium on how old the device is? And like, what is your policy regarding mobile devices?
That is a good question. We have an internal rules regarding that. So our reporters do use specific brands and specific models approved by our editor, and they have their own business device, each of them that they need to take care of and use. In a way we have committed each other for them to be used, so they need to be protected with phone case, with of course a pin, and you never we have a security protocol regarding all of our devices, how they should be stored, where and when, how to store them safely while traveling. We have all of that, but I cannot share all of the security protocols in the recording version of this session. So maybe I can answer that question at another time.
Yeah. Maybe Android, iOS?
Oh yeah, we use Android. Yeah, and I mean, I can say that I was very disappointed, actually, that some of the Apple phones do not have an option. I mean, not some of them, I think all of them, all iPhones actually do not have an option of recording phone calls. They have banned that option, and that is highly necessary for us, because we receive threats, we receive information that need to be recorded, and we know that you need to say that you're recording this conversation if you want to use it. Of course, we always do that. Of course, we always respect the code, but we cannot have that ability of recording a call taken from us, because we would miss a threat just said to us via phone. So we have that option on the phones we use, and also, of course, we think that iPhones are overpriced.
They sure are. Okay, thank you, Elena. I don't think we have any questions. So maybe Luca, you can close this up. You're on.
I mean, I see your screen, Marco. So I don't know. I don't see the chat.
Okay. I'm looking at the chat. We don't have any questions now. I'd like to give one last chance to everybody in attendance. If there is something else you'd like to know about our subject today, or if you have any questions and comments, like feel free to write us. I will now send you a link in the chat, and I would kindly ask you to fill out this brief evaluation form, since it will be very valuable to us to know your impressions and how relevant was this learning experience to you, and what it is that you liked, what it is that you think can be improved. How do you think our trainers for today fared? Like I said, you will see in the chat a link to a very brief evaluation form. It won't take a long time, but you can leave any comments you may want, or give us just a numeric, 1 to 5.
And be gentle, because we had a lot of information to share today. So maybe we have bored you, but we were thinking on your best interest. So.
Of course, this was, incredibly interesting to me. I think this could be like a full-length course, as far as I'm concerned, but it's very, it's very dense with information. We hope it wasn't overwhelming for you, but our trainers were, I think, really great. So I think you got all the info you need quite clearly. So right, yeah, we're a little early, but I think if we don't have any further questions, and we don't, I think maybe we ought to close for today, if you both agree.
Yes, and please send my email to the participants so they can ask if maybe something directly if they feel better that way.
Of course, I will send everybody Yelena's email, as well as the links of all the tools we mentioned today, and also the presentation and the recording itself. This will be in your inboxes tomorrow. It's getting already quite late today, so I think tomorrow would be a little better for that. Anyway, thanks a lot, Marco, for your part of the presentation, and thank you, Jelena, so much. It was some really valuable insights into how CREEC works, and some really great, I think, advice for any nonprofit organization, particularly in the Balkans. Excuse me. So once again, thank you, and thank you everybody in attendance, and I hope we'll see you again at our next workshop, which is on Thursday, I think.
Okay.
So again,
So long, everyone.
goodbye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jelena. Bye. Thank you, Luca.